Is WeWork and Uber going to change Masayoshi Son's vision? He says it won't, but will it force him to ultimately?
It's the question everyone's asking. And if we would just take one step back, if you remember when the Vision Fund started, it was all about 2016, 2017, big rollout with Saudi Arabia, Prince Mohammed bin Salman, this concept of artificial intelligence and the future of everything, and technology at the heart, and this kind of wily Japanese deal maker who's risk addicted in Masayoshi Son running it. And it was, and if you look at their biggest investments, it's Uber, it's WeWork, it's Didi Dachi of China. So it's not exactly the sort of artificial AI boom, et cetera, et cetera. These are they're interesting developing companies that have been a big part of the economy over the past few years, but they are not sort of this moonshot bets that Son became famous for. They're kind of late stage investments they made in startups that were already going. And what's happened now is that Softbank, in a sense, instead of looking like the smart money coming in early and riding the boom like Son is famous for with Alibaba, has now come in late into these companies, in WeWork, in Uber, et cetera. And now when they go to exit to the public markets are basically saying, actually, this company is not worth what you paid for in private markets. So this has fundamentally undermined the myth of Son. And he is a man who's in big trouble right now. And I think that's why he said to some degree today in his earnings that he was humbled by what's happened here. But I don't think he thinks it's a crisis, but it certainly feels like one from the outside.
Is it a crisis?
I think it's a very challenging moment. If you look at him, he's really predicated the future of his company around this ability to raise $100 billion funds every 3 years, so that the Softbank no longer becomes this company that owns, what was Vodafone Japan, Sprint, these kind of telco operations, but increasingly becomes an investor in assets, not an operator of assets. And to do that, you have to show returns, especially at the size and scale, which is unprecedented, that he is trying to operate at. So yeah, I think when you have something as bad as what happened with WeWork, where they put money in at a $47 billion valuation, and 3 weeks later it's now worth only $8 billion. When you have Uber tanking in the public markets with real concerns over it will ever be a profitable concern, it is a proper crisis. And when you're in the middle of fundraising and you have big LPs who are expecting returns, you've levered up the Vision Fund itself, which has to pay a coupon of 7% on $40 billion of debt that's within the $100 billion apparatus. Softbank itself has $160 billion of interest-bearing debt. I mean, this is a company where things need to go right all the time. And when you have huge setbacks like this, huge corrections, a loss of faith in your ability, then yeah, it's probably a crisis.
I mean, let's be clear. Masayoshi Son is an investor, and he's done well on many investments over the years. But he also is a gambler. I mean, you talk about levering up $40 billion on a $100 billion fund, a lot of which is the Saudi investment fund. You've got some employees thrown in the mix here. He's making some big and potentially dangerous bets. Is he not, Arash?
He's a risk-addicted gambler, and if you heard it from him, he's the guy who could put $20 million into Alibaba in the year 2000, 2001, and now it's worth something over $100 billion. So if you want to get that kind of juice, his view is you got to be willing to take risk. He is a risk-addicted deal maker, as we use over and over again, but that is the best way to describe what he's all about. But increasingly, he's also said he only wants to spend 3% of his time managing Softbank and 97% of the time making investment decisions, which is really fun and it's really great. But as we go into in my piece, there's all kinds of managerial issues within the Vision Fund. There's culture clashes, there's power struggles, there's sharp elbows. Some of the guardrails that were within Softbank over the past 3 to 4 years have quit the company. That includes Nikesh Arora, who was supposed to be his heir apparent and president, who quit in 2016. He was very much against the WeWork investment. Softbank International CFO Alok Sama left the company in April. He had been helping with the Sprint T-Mobile merger, another guardrail against some of Son's instincts.
Yeah.
And what's happened is, and Mark Schwartz, who was the longtime independent director on the company's board. People described him to us as a moral compass who helped guide the company. Apparently, he became fed up with the culture, with the compliance function at the Vision Fund, some of the stories that were coming out of the company, and left. So, it's not just a story of investments going badly. It's a story of a cultural problem within Softbank and a leader who likes making deals and doing deals, but doesn't really care about the other stuff.